if I can record audio. I'm recording, but you're not. You want to record? Here we are. We are both recording. So we are good to go.
Yeah. Yay. So, hello everyone. We have a special guest today, long time no see. Professor Sam Vaknin, the author of Malignant Self-Love, Narcissism Revisited, and the author of the sentence Narcissistic Abuse. So, hello, Professor.
Thank you. Call me Sam. We'll make the interview more efficient.
That was my plan. Hi, Sam.
Hello, Daria, clinical psychologist.
Yes. So, Sam, today I would love to speak about relationship, but what is going on after with some of clients, some of people that they come into our office. And the main issue is they asking about should they regret the bad relationship with narcissism, for example, narcissist. Should they?
It's a learning
But they
opportunity.
lost time. Mhm.
Yeah. First of all, there's no such thing as lost time in relationships. Any relationship. Good ones, bad ones. There's no lost time. In life, generally, there's no lost time. You learn, you're all the time learning, all the time adapting. The brain is neuroplastic and you're changing all the time. You're not the same person from one day to the next, which is why psychology is in trouble. It's very difficult to replicate experiments and studies because the raw material, people, they're mutable, they're changing all the time. So when you say a bad relationship, you need to reconsider the word bad. It's been a relationship, but you need to reconsider the word bad. Bad in which sense? You have suffered. You experience loss. You're in bad mental health and so on. But suffering and losses, they are the engines of personal growth and development. There is no growth and development without suffering and losses. When a mother is overprotective, when a mother isolates her child, doesn't allow the child to get in direct touch with reality and experience pain and hurt and loss and suffering, that child doesn't grow up. That child then throughout life remains a child and suffers even much worse than he would have suffered had he been exposed to reality. Reality is harsh. Reality is unforgiving. Reality is cruel. Reality is unfair. And the only way to survive in reality is to accept all these attributes of reality, to internalize them, to experience them, and to change yourself accordingly. So I think bad relationships are learning opportunities. I wouldn't call them bad. I would call them dysfunctional. I would call them, but they're not bad. They're never bad.
Okay. But let's say, for example, if I was 10 years with a dysfunctional relationship, where is the boundary that it's still a lesson and where it's absolutely not? And where then?
If you remain in the relationship, as long as you remain in the relationship, it means that you are resistant to learning, that you are not learning. So it doesn't matter if it's 10 years, 10 days, or 30 years. You will be out of the relationship, you will exit the relationship once you have learned. As long as you have not learned, you will not exit the relationship. So it's a little like going to school. If you don't pass the exams, you will not progress to the next year. Or university, if you don't pass the exams, you will not get the degree. Life offers you degree programs. You graduate. But to graduate, you need to study or learn. And to study or learn, you need to be in the classroom. And the classroom is the relationship. And so some people refuse to learn. Everyone is capable of learning. It is not true that some people are not capable of learning. Absolutely every human being alive is capable of learning, of change, of transformation, of deriving lessons, of modifying behaviors accordingly. Every human being is capable of this, but many of us do not want to. If you are in a relationship and you do not want to learn, it's because the relationship is offering you something that you don't want to give up on. The relationship is catering to your psychological needs. The relationship maybe is fulfilling some dreams and wishes and fantasies and hopes that you had. The relationship, as long as the balance of the relationship is positive, you're going to stay. And so learning is a function of a negative balance. So first, before you become capable of learning, the relationship must present a negative balance where the positives, the pros of the relationship are much less than the cons, the negatives. Now, sometimes you look at a relationship and you say to yourself, what is he or she doing in the relationship? There is physical violence, verbal abuse, financial abuse. I mean, it's horrible. Why doesn't she just pack her things and go? It's because she is getting something. The relationship overall is a positive for her. The balance is positive. Now, where the problem is, sometimes the things that we consider positive, the things that we feel are positive, the things that we experience as positive are actually pathological. They are actually negative. We mislabel, we misjudge some dynamics and some processes in the relationship, and we think that they're positive when they're actually negative. So, for example, if you are not allowed to make decisions in a relationship, you may feel very good with it. Because if you don't make decisions, you're not responsible. And if you're not responsible, you will never feel anxiety, you will never feel guilty. It's anxiolytic. So you see, it's wonderful. I don't have to make, my husband is making all the decisions. I never deal with money. That's his thing. He's doing. And you think it's positive. But actually, of course, it's negative. It takes away your agency, your personal autonomy, your independence. So the problem is not in the relationship. There is no such thing as bad relationship. There is a misjudgment of relationships. There is a mislabeling of dynamics and processes as good when they're actually not good at all.
Okay, thank you so much. When you said that that this is the lesson that you will learn or not, like I felt that this is the key. Like I felt that, oh yeah, okay, aha moment. So thank you for that. It's, I think, really important. So after, let's say, the relationship is finished and we learn a lot, and then we've got a lot of questions sometimes to ask for, what was going on. Why is so hard, Sam, to believe that I deserve goodness and a healthy love, a healthy relationship after dysfunctional relationship? Why it can be so hard to see yourself in a good way?
Even if you have learned something from a dysfunctional relationship, even if, for example, you discovered that some things you thought were positive were actually negative and you should avoid them and so on. Sometimes the learning does not produce insight. Insight is something completely different. Insight is when you couple cognitive learning with emotional response. Transformation and change occur only with insight, not with learning. Learning is not enough. You need to have an emotional reaction to what you have learned. And many people are incapable of this. Many of them are divorced from their emotions. Many of them are afraid of their emotions. Many of them were brought up to believe that expressing emotions is not okay. Many of them, when they express emotions, they are mocked and ridiculed and so on. So many people are divorced from their emotions. They have reduced affectivity. And because of that, they're unable to internalize the learning. And as long as you do not internalize the learning and generate an emotional resonance with the learning, you will continue to preserve your self-concept. So the reason you found yourself in a dysfunctional relationship is that you believed that you deserve no better, that this is what you deserve. This is your self-concept. Everything we do, relationships, business, anything and everything we do reflects of the way that we perceive ourselves, something known as self-concept. If you have a negative self-concept, or if you have an inferior self-concept, what is known as low implicit self-esteem, if you have a low implicit self-esteem, you will believe that you deserve an abuser. You deserve a dysfunctional relationship because you can do no better. You are unlovable. You're unworthy. Maybe you're stupid. Maybe you're ugly. You know, you have an internalized bad object, and you say, I'm going to take whatever comes because I'm never going to do any better. And so one of the main lessons in dysfunctional relationships, the main lesson in my view, is that you can always do better. But if you do not internalize the learning, if you do not internalize this lesson, then you're not going to believe it. And you will continue.
Thank you so much for that. I can see this when I'm working with people, that the cognitive level, it's not enough. You have to embody this, what you know, because the cognitive, it's not enough. The emotional is very important. And I can speak also from my experience that when I felt something, then I understood what is going on and what I can deserve or not. But thank you for the insight, that insight is different than the cognitive level. But how can someone recognize that this negative self-image or self-concept, it's the result of the manipulation after dysfunctional relationship, or is it objective true, or is it true somewhere? How?
Negative self-concept is never true. Negative self-concept is a set of voices, a group, a constellation, a cluster of voices that are enemy voices. They are hostile voices. They are voices that intend to defeat you, destroy you, take you down. They could be voices of a mother. They could be the voice of a mother. Could be the voice of a parental figure. Could be the voice of a teacher. Could be the voice of peers. But these voices are your enemies. And they form, if you don't have countervailing positive voices, if you have only or mainly negative voices, they would inform the self-concept. They would in effect influence the self-concept. And you will end up having a negative self-concept. We therefore can say with certainty that a negative self-concept is never realistic, is counterfactual. Because a negative self-concept reflects the voices of other people, the voices, these voices that are hostile to you, that do not want you to be happy or to succeed. Your authentic voice is always a good friend. Your authentic voice is never sadistic, never hateful, never harshly critical, never pessimistic. It's not a doomsday voice. So your authentic voice is a good friend. A good friend is not always positive. A good friend is realistic. A good friend is balanced. But a good friend has your best interest in mind. A good friend wants you to have well-being and welfare. A good friend would encourage you to experiment and try things. A good friend would give you courage and encouragement. That's a good friend. If you are listening to a voice inside your head that tells you, listen, don't go dating because you're really ugly, that
Yeah.
that is not that is not your authentic voice. That's someone else's voice. Could be your mother, could be anyone. I mean, that's someone else's voice. If you're listening to a voice which says, don't bother to go to university because, you're a bit stupid, you're not really, that's not your voice. That's a negative voice. If your self-concept is negative, if you're ashamed of yourself, if you're embarrassed of yourself, if you don't dare to do things, then this self-concept represents a cluster or constellation of negative introjects, negative voices. And the only way to counter this is to recognize these voices, shut them up, eliminate them, and remain listening only to your authentic voice. And then you will gradually develop a positive self-concept and things will look much better. But this cannot be done with cognition only. Cannot.
Yeah.
You mentioned embodiment. It's a very, very strong point, which I forgot to mention. Your body also. Absolutely. Your body comes into play. The body, the mind, emotions, and cognition. Change, transformation is always integrative. It's always integrated. Big names in psychology, like Jung. Jung called it constellation. Freud called it integration. The process of putting all the elements together induces change. If some of the elements are missing, you will never change. You will maybe lie to yourself that you are changing. You will maybe change externally, like you will change your home, or you will change your profession, or you will change the location, and you will say, see, I changed. I no longer live in this city, I live in another city or whatever. That's not real change. That's self-deception. Real change is about suddenly feeling very differently about yourself. Suddenly making decisions from the point of view of the authentic voice. Suddenly becoming your best friend, finally. That's real change. And bad relationships are a great way to get to this change. They're actually a very good way to get to this change. The dysfunctional relationships are very traumatic and they wake you up. You definitely wake up. And then there is a window of opportunity, a short period of time, where you can really change. If you don't take this opportunity, the window closes. And when the window closes, you again cannot change, and again, extremely likely to find yourself in a dysfunctional relationship. Many victims that I talk to, they tell me that they have had relationships with 5 narcissistic men or women, and they go from one bad relationship to another bad relationship to another bad relationship, and they know it. They know it. They're completely self-aware, but the self-awareness is cognitive and leads nowhere.
Thank you so much. This is amazing. Like you said, this level, cognitive, emotions, and embodiment, body. And I can see and I can tell that clients who can integrate, like Freud would say, I can see that they changing environment and different field, health, money, work, friendships, hobby. They took the chance when the window was open, and I can tell from my relationship that I was 10 years that I took the chance and I changed a lot to work with these 3 levels, because like you said, 1 level cognitive or emotions are not enough. So thank you so much for that, that we have to work with 3 levels, and we have to invite also body to change something.
May I make a comment?
Yes.
It's a historical comment. Until the 18th century, our perception of our expectations from relationships were basically transactional expectations. People got married because they wanted to merge the lands, or they wanted to enhance the family, or they wanted to. Or they wanted to have children, and you needed two people to. So
Yeah.
people were very transactional. Even marriages were very business oriented. And everything was like everyone was an entrepreneur. Even when you got married, it was like establishing a new company, and so on. Then in the 18th century, there was a movement that started in Germany, of course, and it was known as Romanticism. And what the Romanticists told us is that we should look, when we look for an intimate partner, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a spouse, and so on, we should look for someone who would fulfill all our needs: intellectual, emotional, sexual, financial, economic, etc., etc., etc. The Romanticists, the movement of Romanticism, which culminated in Britain in the 19th century, they redefined what is a good relationship. A good relationship is when you find the answer to all your problems and needs in one person. That is an unrealistic view of relationship. And because of that, and only because of that, most modern relationships fail because we expect our partner to be a panacea, to be a cure-all, to provide everything we need, from sex to intellectual conversation, from intellectual conversation to money, from money to everything, everything in one package,
Yeah.
And that is, of course, completely wrong. I think if we were to modify our expectations, many, many dysfunctional relationships would no longer be dysfunctional. I think there is a misconception and misunderstanding of what the human mind and the human body can provide, what the fact that we are all limited, and that we should look for in our partner, we should look for the things the partner can offer and not be disappointed and disenchanted and angry and because the partner cannot provide something. So maybe you have a partner who is great in bed, and he's also very reliable and responsible and has a good job. But he's not the brightest star in the galaxy. You can't really discuss with him psychoanalysis. So you have two alternatives. Alternative number one, you can say, I'm in a bad relationship. I'm in a dysfunctional relationship. My needs are not met. I can't talk to this person. It's horrible. And then, of course, this creates aggression and friction and unpleasant situations in the relationship and so on because expectations are not met. He's also angry. The other party is also angry because he feels the disappointment. He feels the disenchantment and he resents it and so on. So this creates a very evil dynamic in the relationship and destroys the relationship. But if you are able to say, my partner is wonderful. He gives me great sex, a lot of money. He contributes to the household, and he's very reliable. I can trust him. He's my best friend. When I need to talk about deep intellectual issues, I go to Sam Vakni. Normally.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So, but when someone is finishing the dysfunctional or abusive relationship, how can they regain the ability to be close, emotional with someone in a romantic relationship after such a difficult experience when someone was doing the dynamic hot and cold? How can we regain that?
I think you should not regain that.
No?
No. I actually think that one of the main lessons of a dysfunctional relationship is to not trust too fast, too soon, to test the partner. Definitely to test. To be a bit paranoid, a bit cautious and careful. One of the main lessons from a dysfunctional relationship is that you moved too fast. Most dysfunctional relationships involve a very intense period of idealization and blindness. And so this is a main lesson. You would also look for someone who would not trigger in you this idealization, would not trigger in you this fantasy, would not trigger in you this blindness and this sense that you're in Disneyland. You would look for someone
Yeah.
with whom you could have a stable, low intensity maybe relationship. And yes, you would take 1 or 2 or 3 years before you trust this person. Nothing wrong with it. I think it's a bad advice that all over the internet, I see it on YouTubes and even textbooks and even self-help books. I see this bad advice. Immediately after you exit the dysfunctional, abusive, traumatizing relationship, you should trust again. I think that's a bad advice, not a good advice.
I do agree. When I'm speaking with my clients, I'm always telling them that give yourself minimum a 1 year when you will pass important days, Christmas, and that day they are important for you to see how you will behave, how you feel, how you trust yourself, and then you will, for example, start another relationship, and then you will see how is trust in this relationship. So thank you for that. So
You mentioned, excuse me for disrupting you. You
yeah,
mentioned something very important right now. You mentioned trust yourself. Again, one of the main lessons of a dysfunctional relationship is that you cannot trust yourself. You are not making the right choices and decisions for whatever reason. You are self-defeating and maybe self-destructive. You need to work on yourself before you trust other people. You need to establish trust with yourself, and to establish trust with yourself, you need to change. Because it's not true that victims have no contribution to the dysfunctional relationship. Of course, they have a contribution. They made choices, they made decisions, including the decision to stay in the relationship. So something's wrong there and needs to be addressed before you trust other people again, you know.
Yes, I do agree. I'm many years after my relationship, and sometimes I've got the moments when I don't trust myself, and sometimes I'm asking someone, my friend, or like, how can they see this? Because I'm still learning this and still developing my self-trust, and sometimes I don't trust or ask you or some other friend that, how can you see this? What is your point of view? Because right now I've got issue with my trust, and please, could you share with that? So absolutely, I do
But
agree.
you're in a good place because you have a
Yeah,
few people whose judgment you do trust.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's already a good place. That means that you are, yeah, maybe there is issues with self-trust, but you do
yeah,
have a few people around you whose input, whose feedback, whose judgment you do trust. That's a very advanced stage. That's very
yeah.
good. It's a very good sign.
Thank you. So I do have another question. How can someone distinguish a healthy relationship from, for example, dysfunctional or someone with disorders on early on?
Oh, that's a super critical question. And surprisingly very easy to answer.
Okay.
I think there are two conditions. Number one, that the person accepts you and loves you as you are, does not try to change you. Because in dysfunctional relationship, there are cycles of idealization and devaluation. The person doesn't see you as you are. Either he sees you as much more than you are, or he sees you as much less than you are. He never sees you. He's never having a relationship with you. He's having a relationship with your idealized version or devalued version or enemy version of, or, you are never there in a dysfunctional relationship. So if someone accepts you as you are, loves you as you are, helps you when you ask, provides constant support even when you don't ask, but never ever comes to you and tries to change you in a forceful way, that's the first sign of a healthy relationship. You could ask yourself very simply, if someone wants to change me, then he doesn't love me.
Mm-hmm.
Then,
Mm-hmm.
the second thing I think is In a healthy relationship, the parties have their own private space and private time, private experiences, the presence of other people in their lives, and the capacity to evolve, develop, and grow outside the relationship. So healthy relationships contain huge degrees of freedom. They are very free. They are not coercive. They are not insecure. There's no jealousy. It's simply the parties allow each other to have a separate life that they can then bring into the couple. So you have your own friends, your intimate partner has his own friends, and his friends and your friends become your joint friends. Maybe, and some of them don't, but you're still allowed to have friends which are not common friends. You want to travel. He doesn't want to travel. You still travel. He allows you to travel. You want to study something which is of completely uninteresting to him. He will not insist that you do things only together. This freedom is a major indicator of a very healthy relationship. A healthy relationship is enriched from the outside, not only from the inside. It's not a cult, it's not a prison. Most of the enrichment comes from the outside. You bring the world into the relationship. So that's healthy. I think these are basically the two criteria. You can derive many other criteria from it.
Yeah.
Because, for example, if I idealize you and you don't match my idealized perception of you, you deviate from it, you diverge, I may become aggressive and abusive. So all the other problems in relationships, they come from these two issues: an unrealistic view of the partner and lack of freedom in the relationship. These are
Yes.
the two. And then many other issues come from these two.
Okay. Sam, thank you so much. That was all the questions that I have on my list, and thank you for your insights. Really amazing keys we have here. So I think a lot of people can use this knowledge or not. Do you have any advice at the end for the people around this topic that we are speaking?
Yes, only one maybe.
Yeah.
Relationships, the pursuit of relationships should not become a compulsion. You shouldn't feel that your life is incomplete if you do not have a relationship. This is again the outcome of romanticism, because the romanticists told us that if you don't have romance in your life, if you don't have intimacy and love, you are somehow incomplete. You're somehow missing. You're missing on something. You're defective. You're probably defective if you don't have this. These are wrong messages. Also, they're not real. So don't pursue relationships compulsively. Don't regard it as a precondition for happiness, for a sense of wholeness, and so on. Pursue your life. If you pursue your life, relationships will come. If you pursue relationships, you will not have relationships and you will not have a life.
Professor, thank you so much for all this knowledge that we can hear from you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yeah.
So now
Thank you.
we will say goodbye, but you can click on the same link and we will have another Zoom session where we can talk a bit.
Okay,
Okay?
sure. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now I'll say goodbye. Wait 5 minutes because it's recording.
Okay. Okay.
In 5 minutes, we'll
Okay.
see each other again.
Okay. Bye bye.